Broadest fans, we got your Krusty's Corner coming up at 3:40. Look forward to that. Couple of new DC candidates, as the Cowboys requested the interview with Giants interim DC Charlie Bullen for their coordinator vacancy. Todd Archer tweeting, since Bullen was an interim, it was explained to me that the request could not be denied. So take that, New York Giants. Bullen's defense limited the Cowboys to 286 yards and 17 points in Week 18. I don't know, what kind of credibility you give that or credence you give that in evaluating him. He is known for player-centric and adaptable defensive schemes. You love to hear that. I guess reading the New York papers in anticipation of this story, they felt like he did a better job dialing up pressure packages and simplifying the defense for the players to make more plays, and that Giants defense does appear to be trending in the right direction. But, it's hard to tell. I think at some point, like, the probability of these guys just gets lower and lower with every batch of new guys we get. Just by a numbers game now, there's a 12% chance if they all have an equal shot, 12.5%, as we're sitting at 8 guys. Cowboys also put in the request to interview Eagles pass game coordinator Christian Parker, and that interview could happen as soon as tomorrow. He was number 7. Bullen is number 8. Is there an expiration date on this process, you think, guys? Like, is there a time where you want to have this settled by maybe Senior Bowl?
I don't feel like there's any reason to be in a hurry until these teams start hiring head coaches. And maybe you want to be ahead of this one, but the minute some of these head coaches or these guys that are interviewing for jobs get jobs, they're going to be looking to put staffs together. So I think you want to kind of be ahead of the game on that. It makes sense about the Senior Bowl stuff. You got the East-West game coming up. We got a lot of things coming up right at the end of the month.
Yeah, I was just thinking draft prep, but I mean, you got a better point than that these staffs are going to get flushed out as soon as the head coaches get appointed.
There's going to be some guys out on the street and stuff, but you're ahead of it right now with your interviews. But you got to worry about, what if these guys, you might lose. Say for example, Brian Flores gets a job. Well, then you might lose your
Durante Jones.
You might lose Jones as a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So you gotta be ready for that. I think until the first head coach gets fired, you could be gets hired, you could be patient. And then once that first one happens, then now you got to go be proactive because you don't want to lose the guy you really want.
So I'm a big Schotty fan, maybe as big as it gets in the media. We were talking about him to open up the show, and somebody texted that I was way too optimistic about what he's capable of. But I mean, look what he did for the offense. Look what he's done for this coaching search.
Yeah.
Okay, this is an actual real coaching search that he has upgraded not only the Joneses' way of looking at things, but what they're going to allow the coach to do. Like this stuff is in a way unprecedented under Jones, especially for a guy that doesn't have many skins on the wall. We're paying more attention to the middle of the field. We're trying to play physically on both sides of the line of scrimmage. We're treating defensive tackle like you might actually want to get good ones if you ever plan on stopping the run and pressuring quarterbacks up the middle. We've solved that. Like I just think there's a number of upgrades here with Schotty, and no offense to anybody, but I think sometimes people have a difficult time seeing value when you don't have a winning record. I think that's really what this comes down to.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's about wins on the football field, but I think he's done an excellent job in terms of he uses the buzzword culture all the time, but I think you've actually seen, especially the way that they were able to navigate the Marshawn Nealon tragedy, that was huge. And I know Bobby talked about that a lot, about, Schotty was probably the best person suited for that. I think when you see some of the behind-the-scenes stuff on Hard Knocks, him as a communicator, all the stuff that he wants, the teaching qualities, he possesses. So, my next thing is I really hope we see a trend in the right direction for safeties being more of a priority, because I don't think that's been something that's been a priority here for 20 years.
Yeah.
And it does, when you're just kind of looking at all of these names they're bringing in, it's guys that have secondary experience. Their forte is the secondary. They clearly were not happy with the way their corners and safeties played. And I do love the fact, some people I've seen already, oh man, why should we be excited about these no-name guys that nobody's ever heard of? That makes me more excited. I kind of love the fact when you're kind of going and you're looking under every rock and you're talking. Clearly, I think that he is talking to people around the league, much like how he found Clayton Adams, much like he found Connor Riley at Kansas State, and he is using everything at his disposal to bring in who he thinks are the best candidates for the job.
Yeah.
And also, if indeed, let's say it's Jim Leonard, or if it ends up being a Brian Flores, who Josina Anderson put out, she's told the Cowboys still have interest there and are monitoring that. They just have not scheduled an interview yet. He interviewed with the Commanders today. You never know if any of these other guys could end up on the staff in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that's kind of. I've got people in the organization kind of feeling like I got people steering me one way, saying that no, these are legitimate coaching interviews, and then the others are saying, you think I think we're kind of trying to divert some things, and so I don't know, man. I'm kind of like trying to kind of figure out which one is the more believable here. I'll say this though, I think the fan base, their legitimate fear is what happened in Philadelphia, say the last couple of years. Remember, Philadelphia fired both their coordinators before the Super Bowl. I mean, they went and got Kellen Moore and they went and got Vic Fangio. I think fan base is worried that you're going to hire a coordinator that has no experience, and it's going to be much like what Philadelphia went through.
Yeah.
That like all of a sudden that these guys are over their heads and they weren't ready to be coordinators. I like the fact that it's new, fresh names and all that, and that people are talking nice about them. But I can understand the fan base going, damn, Philadelphia had two coordinators under Nick Sirianni, brand new, Brian Johnson and somebody else. And what happened to them? Both those guys were let go at the end of the year. And then
Sean Desai.
Yeah, yes. Sean Desai. There you go. I think that's
fair point.
I think that's where the fan base. I think they're excited about the search.
Yeah.
I think the fan base is really excited about the search. I think we all fear what we don't know, and that's
Absolutely.
We don't know the names. And then the other thing we fear is they might know they bring this guy in and then he's a bag of ass.
Yeah, but it could go both ways. I mean, you just did it with Eberflus.
Oh no, but that's
Bullen in 2020.
No, I'm just saying that's kind of what. But
it's an inexact science.
If fan base is struggling with this. If they're struggling, I can understand their fear.
But I think the interview process is really the big thing for me. And we talked about that in every post-game show. We want an extensive search.
No question.
They're giving us the extensive search here.
They've handled this thing beautifully. I just, when Joe and Flower Mound does not recognize name, Joe and Flower Mound goes, what the F are they doing?
Yeah.
What are they trying to go cheap here? Are they trying, it's immediately it turns into they haven't done it right. And so now I say they haven't done it right. We saw with the line coach and the coordinator and stuff like that. But overall,
that's what gives me confidence.
That there you go. That's the thing you should be talking about. But I think Joe and Flower Mound also says, it's Jerry's involved, and they're going to F this thing up, and they're going to hire a coach that doesn't know what the hell he's going to do, and the defense is going to be god awful again. I think that's the fear.
469 says, I do fear the Jones boys will screw it up. And there's always the opportunity for that. I love that Wolchuk brought up safety, because another thing here is the Joneses have said for years you can't have everything. And Jerry loves to tell this story about getting off his private jet and jumping into an old Ford Bronco, which were pretty badass, by the way. If you can get one restored now from the late 80s, early 90s.
Pretty penny.
But, the guy I was traveling with was like, what are we doing here in this old Ford Bronco? And he said, well, you can't have everything. So the Cowboys have looked at it like, well, if the most important part of the game is the passing chunk plays, let's get edges and corners, and let's get wide receivers and tackles and quarterbacks, and that's where our money's going to go. And I think they maybe lied to themselves that you could actually win the Super Bowl that way. Mm-hmm. And hopefully part of Schotty's message is, that's a good way of building if you want a pretty good team that's highlight friendly. But if you actually want to go all of the way, we have to figure out a way to get every position solved with quality guys.
Yeah.
And if he can do that, then I think everybody will agree with me that he's the man.